Today is June 30th, 2021. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. We'll go down our release agenda first, which is starting with 121. There's just a docs update remaining, as well as just fixing our docs publishing, which is currently broken. That's something I'll hopefully try to get to this week. Next is 122. So we have a couple PRs out. Code freeze is next week. So let's see where we are. I think first up is the FS group change. Chang has a PR out. I think it's waiting on Hamant to review. Oh wait, this is just the issue.
Yeah, he mentioned this morning, Hamant mentioned this morning he was going to be reviewing this. I don't know if he's started already.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Next up, the Orphan directory fix has merged. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I think we should consider backporting this potentially as a bug fix if it's not too risky.
yeah, I think so. Which releases? I mean, do you have any suggestions?
Usually we do the last 3 releases that are available to backport to.
Okay.
I think it's the last 2. No, last 3. So 21, 20, and 19.
Okay. Are there any sort of SOAK requirements, like how long we would expect it to be tested and mastered before it gets backported?
Yeah, I think having a soak, letting this soak a little bit would be good. I think one thing to check is the tests. A lot of the tests were failing or flaky because of this. So one thing we can do is try to run those tests again and see if it still flakes. So I think Patrick had added a flag to the host path driver to not do strict checking for this issue. I think we can turn that flag off and then check the flakiness of the tests after that.
Okay, yeah, so that CLI flag, the host path driver, I changed as part of this PR. They got merged, so those tests should be running now. I think it's the very bottom. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, so then I think now that it's running again, I guess, yeah, let's monitor the tests and see if they look more flaky or not. And then if it's looking good, then I think we can backport this.
Okay, awesome. That sounds good.
Cool, thank you. I'll mark this as done. Next, we have access modes.
For this project, the main changes here at the top of the done column there, the PR that introduces the API changes got merged yesterday. Right now, I'm just addressing some final small changes on a separate PR here, which is enforcing this access mode during scheduling.
Cool. All right. Thank you for the update. Oh.
Will we get some end-to-end tests?
So that was in the beta graduation criteria.
All right.
But definitely something to do.
Do we have an abbreviation for this? So let's RWOP?
RWOP, yeah, okay. Is what I've been.
All right.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Next up, we have volume populators.
Yeah, I pushed the PR for this Monday after the meeting, after adding a bunch of additional tests. I think I'm failing at least some of the existing unit tests because I need to update those too, but the PR is there and it's, do you have a link to it yet or do we need to add it here?
Yeah, I would add it here when you get a chance.
All right, yeah, I'll add it here. Yeah, so
How
it
many
needs
PR do you have? How many entry PRs do you have? One? Or...
just the one. Yeah, this
Okay.
adds in the new data source ref field and the relevant validation rules. The change to strategy to populate the field on retrieval. It still has all the feature gate changes for the any data source feature gate is what this is based on. And then a huge amount of new unit tests to cover all the weird possibilities. I still would like to add E2E tests as well. I haven't done that yet. My priority is getting the review in and fixing the existing failing unit tests that are caused by the strategy changes.
And then this is what? Is that July 6th? Is that the merge deadline?
Yeah, I was going to ask when exactly is
that
the
that's next week, right? Is that next week? So we need to get this one in quick. Oh, July, is that July 6th? Then that's next Tuesday. Ooh, just 1 week. Okay, so we need to start with, okay, I'll help with reviews.
Yeah, do I need to ping individual API reviewers or is marking it API change enough?
Yeah,
to
you
get
probably
their
want to
attention?
ping Tim, right? Because he reviewed the cap, maybe, he
all right,
knows, you probably should ping him.
I will do that as well.
He probably be very busy right now.
Well, fortunately, it's a relatively small change and it does exactly what he recommended. So when he looks at it, he should be like, oh yeah, this is what I said to do. I hope.
And then the E2 test is not required, right? And also PV test has a different deadline. I think it's later.
Okay, if the E2E test could be in a separate patch.
Yeah,
then
E2 test
maybe
is the July 15th. And also is the E2 test not required for alpha? So maybe if that's the case, then maybe that's okay. Yeah. It's July 15th.
It's the kind of feature that's hard to test with only unit tests. That's why I'm
okay.
That's why
yeah, so you have
I would prefer to have E2E tests as well.
Okay. Yeah, 1 more week for that. Oh, did I? Is that right, Michelle? Is that the 6th or 8th? The freeze. That's normally a Thursday, right? I'm looking at it here. 6th is Tuesday. So which day is it? 8th. Oh, okay. So next Thursday, 2 more days. That's good. Okay. Somehow I thought it's 6. Yeah, that's okay. You have the right. Yeah, I somehow thought it's 6, and then 6 is a Tuesday.
Yeah. So let's definitely get the review started on that now. Yeah, definitely label API review, assign Tim on it, and ping him.
Yeah, it's labeled API review. I'll assign Tim.
Sounds good. All right. Next up is recovering from Resize. Looks like Hamant is not here. I think there has been some discussion this morning about a possible issue. I guess, do we know how we want to proceed with that now?
I spent some time with Heman discussing how to proceed, and maybe we have a solution for the controller Resize that would allow us to shrink the volume to original size if things go wrong. And I believe Hemant is thinking about it hard because like this is complicated. And I'm sure he will bring something new shortly.
Okay. And I guess though, is it will it solve the other issue that was mentioned this morning about rounding up the resize?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
Is it? Yes, because I was out on Mondays. I saw the discussions. I think Michelle, you raised this. Is that really required that for us to go back to the original size? Why is it not okay to just always to go to the original +1?
It's just a little weird because we're saying we're recovering, but not really. We can't actually fully recover. But like I was okay with the current plan, and maybe in the next release thinking about how we can go back to the original size. But then I think Jing actually brought up this a scenario that actually is a problem. It's not really related to going all the way back to the original size, but Jing was saying there's an issue because when we round, because sometimes drivers round up to the nearest size. And if we allow like a +1, if it's within the rounded size quantity, then that could potentially introduce problems.
Okay.
So I think Jan and Hamad were discussing possible solutions to that. And if my understanding is correct, that solution could also allow us to go all the way back to the original size.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully. The resizing is complicated.
Yeah. But I think even solving the rounding issue is complicated too, right?
Maybe like we should fix it properly.
Yeah, and drivers can round by however much they want. They can round up a lot.
Yeah, like
Yeah, we don't
if
know.
we
Right?
have this
Don't know
get
what's
volume
the...
size call, then use it and put it after dynamic provisioning, like the right size to PV. That would help a bit, I believe.
All right. So yeah, I guess we'll wait for Hamad to think about the issues and see what he can come up with. All right. Next up is Windows. I think Jing's not here, so we'll just get an update next week. And I think we'll also get an update from those items later. This one's complete. So I think that's all that we were tracking for 122. Is there, I think, Chris, you have one more topic you wanted to discuss?
Yeah. So there was a question that came up in the API review of the read write once pod access mode pull request. Tim raised a question that was essentially saying, if we're comfortable scheduling pods that are destined to fail, the case being when you have two pods using read write once and one fails attachment, then why are we introducing scheduler changes now to enforce this access mode for this new read write once pod access mode? So it seems like we should either enforce it entirely in the scheduler or entirely in kubelet. At bare minimum, we have to enforce this in kubelet since customers could set node names on the pod and bypass scheduler enforcement. So one of the follow-ups from this API review and conversations with SIG scheduling is if we are going to start enforcing the current read write once access mode in scheduling as well. So there's consistency with how we now handle read write once pod, the new one. And so how this would basically work is, if pod 1 and pod 2 both use a PVC with read write once, the scheduler will force them to land on the same node. And I understand that this is a behavior change, and maybe there's customers out there that rely on this behavior, and this probably requires a bit more investigation to figure out all the corner cases. But I wanted to raise this topic with the SIG to figure out if this is something that we're comfortable doing. And if not, we should probably have more conversations, or I'll have more conversations with SIG scheduling on potentially rolling back the scheduler enforcement for this new read write once pod access mode. So there's consistency.
There's absolutely people who depend on running multiple pods on the same node so that they can share an RWO volume. I don't know if there's
I think
anyone
that's
who
not,
depends on the
that's,
inverse of that.
Yeah. So I think the proposal here is not to change that behavior. It's actually to make it better. Because currently today, in order to do what you want to do, read write once on the same node, you need to add like a node affinity or pod affinity to your pod spec to force them to schedule onto the same node. This proposal is actually add logic in the scheduler so that the scheduler, so that you no longer need to have those node affinities and pod affinities.
But the question is, can we not do that, right? Because if you have the logic in the kubelet to do the safe thing, when you bypass scheduling, then the scheduler isn't doing anything other than sort of offering you a convenience. You can already achieve what you want without the scheduler changes. Is that what you were trying to say, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. So the scheduler changes should be strictly optional.
Yes. My intent with like introducing that was just to fail fast and to save like kubelet resources trying to, manage a pod that's destined to fail. But yeah.
I mean, I think it's not even so, like without the scheduler changes, it's not consistent today, right? We have enforcement on the attached detached controller and enforcement on kubelet. And either way, we need those changes. We need that enforcement in those other places because people can bypass the scheduler.
Yeah. So do everything but the scheduler changes and you're done.
I mean,
right?
I guess the main thing is that by doing it in the scheduler, it is like a kind of fail earlier kind of scenario, because I think if you make it all the way to kubelet and it fails, or you make it all the way to the attached detached controller and fails, your pod is kind of stuck. You need to manually delete your pod in order to recover. I think the other thing to think about is if there's any like auto scaler in a like scenarios that might be better if it's enforced in the scheduler, because the auto scaler basically runs the scheduler as a simulation. So I don't know, we might be able to make some argument that adding the enforcement in the scheduler will also fix some scenario with auto scaler, but like off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We need to think more about that.
Yeah. It's yeah, I'm just like speculating. Maybe there are some customers that somehow depend on this behavior of, I schedule 2 pods. I know one of them is going to fail, and that's okay. I'll just wait until maybe the first pod that has the PVC, is deleted or releases the claim pod gets out.
I know people who are using this behavior for deployments with one replica to make sure that only one pod can have the PVC, because there was no read write one spot access mode before.
But how would they block it? Like they would need a pod anti-affinity to go on different nodes.
I think they just hope it lands on different node. And this happens like when you have some wrong deployment that has wrong
Mhm.
configuration.
But I
So
guess
multiple replicas can run at the same time. But yeah, I
if
wouldn't care about those users too much.
yeah, like if
Because
someone is using pod anti-affinity, I mean either way, today their second pod can't start, right? Because it will be stuck waiting for attach.
But it sounds like Jan is saying that like that's what people want.
yeah, that's what they expect. That's what they want.
It's either like it's stuck waiting for attach. If we actually change something in the scheduler, then it would be not schedulable. It would be stuck in the scheduler because the pod anti-affinity and the read-write once would conflict with each other. And it would be
Yeah.
unschedulable until the first pod is deleted, in which case then it will become schedulable again.
Okay,
So
good
maybe
idea.
you add a command line flag to the scheduler, whether or not to use the new behavior and default to the old behavior so you don't break anybody.
No. That's what our alpha feature is for. Alpha feature gates.
Well, then it seems better just to not do anything in the scheduler and let the bad behavior continue and let people who
Or
want to rely on the bad behavior continue to rely on it.
I would let them break the bad behavior because they are doing something wrong. And they can use the different new access mode nowadays.
I tried to make that argument about the volume populator stuff and people putting garbage in the data source field, and I was not received well. People rely on bad behavior all the time, and the stance from the API guys at least seems to be we have to protect those users that rely on bad behavior.
Yeah, but I guess this bad behavior in this case is that the pod has or no, not even the pod. The PVC has an event on it saying, or no, the pod has an event on it saying timed out waiting for attach, volume to attach. And instead of like an event saying that, then the behavior will be, you'll get like an event on the pod saying the pod is unschedulable. I guess, do we expect people to be relying on specific events?
Yeah,
It's possible.
No.
Couldn't they be relying on the pod being stuck until the first pod dies and then the second pod is able to start?
I mean, that behavior will still remain the same, right? It's just the difference is where it gets stuck. It's either stuck in the attach detach controller or it's stuck in the scheduler.
Yeah, it will be stuck pending instead of container creating. Something like that.
The actual
I'm fine
condition.
with that.
So I would say it would be helpful if people would like to chime in on this issue. So members of SIG scheduling can also see kind of what SIG storage's feedback is on this issue. If you'd be willing to express support or not for this.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Any other topics?
Actually, one quick thing. Since this is in a way a behavior change, like does something like this qualify for a KEP, or I don't know if this falls into like a gray area of like, do you really need to do this or not?
I'm not sure. I think it depends on whether or not we actually think a change in error handling behavior sort of is in the scope of like backwards compatibility.
Okay.
Should this be in your original CAP? Can you just modify that to add this, or do you need a separate one for this?
I mean, I think the original cap is primarily focused on the new access mode. I could extend it. But yeah, if it is just a matter of like we're just handling the error differently, but the observed behavior is essentially the same, like the pod can't start in either situation, maybe then it doesn't mandate cap changes. I'm not sure.
Because I think it's common, like during implementation, you run into additional issues that are not covered in the cap, and sometimes we just go back and modify it later. So
I see.
How this
Yeah, I think this could potentially fit in that scope. But yeah, I think we need to kind of discuss first and, you know, kind of investigate further, like the scenarios that may be improved by making this change and also the scenarios that might change. And I think we can then make a call after that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, any other topics? Then we'll end for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.